Some events are forever scarred in the soul, even if they seem long forgotten. Jessica knew that. She had learned to live with the pain that permeated every cell of her being. It would seem that time in a mental institution should have brought her back to normal, but the mind, once broken, does not fully recover. Ever since her daughter disappeared without a trace, Jessica could no longer trust her own feelings. The disappearance had been a shock. It was as if the 3-year-old had vanished, no trace, no clues. The police were desperate to find her, but the investigation was stalled. Jessica was sure her daughter was dead, though no one could confirm it. This thought she carried with her like a dark stain that could no longer be washed away. When a mind becomes fragile, it can easily break. After many months in rehab, her husband Tom decided a change was needed. They bought an old country house in a small town. "The fresh air will help you recover," Tom convinced her. He believed that a new beginning would lead them both out of this dark shadow of the past. But was it the right decision? As they drove toward the house, Jessica felt a sense of unease rise in her chest. The house looked as if it had been forgotten for decades, the peeling paint on the walls, the cracked windows, the tall, neglected grass around it. But Tom was sure this was where their new life would begin. "Do you really think this place is going to help me?" Jessica looked at her husband, trying to catch a confidence in his face that she couldn't. "Of course," Tom answered, keeping his eyes on the road. "It's quiet, peaceful. You're just tired, Jess. It'll get better." But Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that their new life hadn't started out right. Anxiety was pulling her down, making her wonder if this place didn't hold the promise of salvation, but instead was a trap for her mind. The house greeted them with a chill. Tom and his friend Sam began unloading their belongings, and Jessica stood in the dark hallway, absorbing the smell of damp wood and damp earth. She heard a slight rustle and turned around, as if someone was watching her. But there was no one. And then she saw a strange girl sitting at the top of the stairs. Her long hair, tangled and disheveled, cascaded over her shoulders, and her face was slightly covered. She looked to be in her 30s, and her loose, hippie-style clothes made her look even stranger against the backdrop of the dilapidated house. "Oh, hello," the girl smiled without moving. "You must be the new owners." "Sorry for the intrusion, I'm here temporarily." Jessica wanted to say something, but the words stuck in her throat. Who is she? Why is she here? And more importantly, why did she look so familiar? "You're the one who lives here?" Jessica finally found the strength to speak. "Yes, my name is Emily." She came down the stairs, moving smoothly as if she were gliding across the floor. "I'm temporarily occupying this house, but I can leave if you want." "No, stay," Jessica said, surprised at herself. "It'll be more fun here." "More fun here." Emily nodded gratefully, and at that moment Jessica noticed the portrait on the wall. It was old, in a cracked frame, and depicted a woman. The face was blurred by time, but the features, they looked just like Emily's. The same smile, the same eyes. But it could have been a coincidence, right? Days passed. Emily wasn't a bother, she was quiet, and her presence even seemed soothing to Jessica. But at night, strange things happened in the house. She heard footsteps outside the walls, light rustles, as if someone were walking down the hallways when everyone should be asleep. And every time she passed the portrait in the hallway, she felt as if the woman depicted in it was watching her. Jessica felt it with her whole body, like a cold wind creeping through the cracks of her mind. Her heart sank and her hands trembled. But when she told Tom about it, he only smiled and reassured her. "It's all in your head, Jess. You know you haven't fully recovered yet." "Maybe," she replied, but somewhere in the back of her mind she doubted it. One night Jessica awoke to the sound of footsteps. The faint light of the moon was streaming into the room, playing on the ceiling, and she cautiously got out of bed. She knew Tom and Sam were asleep, but the footsteps continued. They weren't the kind of sounds you could write off as old beams or wind. Someone was walking around the house. Her heart pounded louder as she approached the door. Fear restrained her, but at the same time pushed her to find out the truth. When she stepped out into the hallway, the sound of footsteps stopped. Silence. A silence that pressed on her ears, filling the entire space. "Emily?" Jessica called out in a whisper. There was no answer. Suddenly she heard a whisper. Light, barely perceptible, as if someone was speaking to her from far away. The whisper grew louder, but she couldn't make out the words. Her excitement grew, turning to panic. She dashed for the stairs, but stopped when she saw the light below. In the kitchen, in the dim light of a lamp, sat Emily. She was playing her guitar, humming softly, her eyes closed. "Emily," Jessica's voice trailed off. "What are you doing?" Emily looked up at her, and there was no surprise or fright in her eyes. Just a strange, chilling emptiness. "I'm just waiting, Jessica," she said softly. "Waiting? For what?" Jessica felt panic overwhelm her. Emily stood up, her movements slow and fluid, like a puppet on strings. She looked at Jessica with a slight chuckle. "I've been waiting for you," she walked slowly past, but her words came over Jessica like a blow. "This house has always been mine, Jessica. And now you've made your choice." Jessica tried to follow Emily, but the room suddenly began to sway before her eyes. The noise in her head intensified into an unbearable hum that made her want to run. It was as if the world around her was becoming shaky, unreal. She remembered the portrait on the wall. It was as if some unknown force had pushed her there. Jessica ran down the hallway until she stopped in front of it. The woman in the painting. She could definitely make out the face now. It was Emily. But how is that possible? "You already know the truth, don't you?" Emily whispered behind her back. "This house takes those who can't leave. And you are one of them." Jessica screamed, but the sound of her voice was lost in the void. Everything around her was gone, the house, the night light, even the air she was trying to breathe in. There was only the portrait, and that whisper that would never stop. When Tom woke up in the morning, Jessica was gone. He searched the house, calling her name, but there was only silence. Sam stood at the window, looking out at the woods behind the house, and only said quietly, "This place is strange, Tom. Very strange." But Tom did not hear him. His gaze lingered on the portrait. The woman in the painting was looking at him with a smile, and in her eyes was the same blank, chilling terror that Jessica had seen once before. The ending of the story is left open so that the reader can speculate for themselves what happened to Jessica, and what was really lurking in that house.